What's up, YouTube? How are you doing this Friday? Woo! It's Friday. No! So I am probably going to go home and play an unreasonable number of hours of Assassin's Creed, the first one, because I've recently become addicted to it. So cool. Last night I think I played like 4 or 5 hours of Assassin's Creed, which is not good. Not good, because I have a whole bag full of essays to grade. Yay! Essays! Woo! And one funny thing that I've noticed after playing Assassin's Creed for so much is that my brain gets it confused with a different game. For a long time I played Prince of Persia. I don't know if you guys have played Prince of Persia, but the way that you acquire health for your character in Prince of Persia is by drinking water. And for some reason my brain equates Assassin's Creed very closely with Prince of Persia, probably because the emotions are very similar, the way that you climb and jump and you know, swing on things and, you know, climb buildings and whatnot. Very similar between the two games. However, in Assassin's Creed, you do not acquire health by drinking water. Instead, you acquire health by being awesome and not dying and following in your ancestors' footsteps is kind of the dealio. So the way that you lose health is like jumping off of things that are too high, or being hurt by your enemies, or things like that. And then you get more in alignment the more sneaky you are and the better you are at killing people and so forth. Anyway, very complicated, but it means that every time I'm playing Assassin's Creed and find water, I'm always like, oh, I need to drink the water, I need help. And then I'm like, wait a second, that's the wrong game. So one thing that I've known for a long time, but I don't think a lot of people realize, is the fact that being an English teacher means that you actually teach all the other subjects, pretty much. Because English isn't just a part of, it's not a separate thing, it's integrated into science, it's integrated into history and math, and it's an essential part of just being able to communicate. And so being an English teacher means that I can draw from different subjects for my content. So I'm not saying that I'm teaching history, but I'm finding those tie-ins more and more often, especially in my American literature class, because we've been studying the Grapes of Wrath, which takes place during the Great Depression in the United States. And so I found it very helpful to bring in historical references and showing them visuals of what it was like during that time period to help them connect with the novel. So in that way, I'm kind of a history teacher / English teacher at the same time, which is kind of weird. And also in my British literature class, I found it helpful to incorporate science videos, or actually pseudo-science videos, discussing the 4 humors. And if you're unfamiliar with the 4 humors, basically, back in medieval times, they didn't have a good understanding of how the human body worked. And so most medical science was based off the idea that the human body contains 4 different humors, and having more of one or less of one, or any combination there in between, is what caused you to become sick. And so that's how you got medical practices such as bloodletting, because they believed you had too much blood, or drilling holes in people's heads, and just terrible things that they did in medieval times that more likely killed you rather than made you better. So as we're reading Shakespearean plays in British literature, these kind of terms keep coming up, and so explaining what that means is very helpful. So in a way, I'm not just an English teacher, I'm kind of an everything teacher. So I'm pretty stoked. I know I'm going to get the name wrong, Miss Peregrine's Home for Unusual Children? Something like that. Came in the mail yesterday, so it is sitting on my bedside table waiting for me to finish first An Abundance of Catherines, then The Fault in Our Stars, then to read that book. So, it's like 3 down, but I'm still very excited about starting reading it. So, I feel very into the times by owning the number 1 and number 2 best-selling young adult novels on the New York Times bestseller list. Woo! So I switched over my Adventure Time calendar to March a couple of days ago, and that went pretty well. The new picture is kind of weird though. It's Princess Bubblegum, Jake, and Finn, and they're all kind of holding hands with their arms up in the air like this, and the top says Shmow Wow, or Shmow, or Wow Shmow Wow, something like that. I think it's a very unique show, even though it's a cartoon and it's a kid's show. I think that it has a lot of elements that are very unique. I mean, it creates its own mythology. It takes place in, if you're unfamiliar with the show, it takes place in the land of O-O-H, I believe. And Finn is the last human living on the Earth, or well, we don't even know if it's Earth. Last person living in last human being living in U. And U is kind of split off into these different kingdoms, and each kingdom has a royal family with a young princess who is desperately trying to get married. And so most of these princesses kind of fall for Finn at some point or another. But there is an evil character living in U known as the Ice King, and the Ice King has control over ice, and he lives in the Ice Kingdom, and he does not have a girlfriend, and so he goes through the kingdom and steals princesses from these different kingdoms, and Finn has to defeat him. Now, Finn isn't by himself. Finn also has his best friend and brother, or stepbrother kind of person, named Jake. And Jake is a magical dog that is able to shapeshift. And I'm sorry that's a lot to throw at you, but that's the basic setup of the show. And I just really like it because I think it's really unique. And I think that anything is possible in the land of U, and they can go to any kingdom they want, and that it's just a world of possibilities there. And another thing I like about the show is that it is a building show. It doesn't just have one episode that's completely independent of all other episodes. All of the episodes build on each other. So it's not like The Simpsons or Family Guy where everything kind of resets at the beginning of every episode and you can watch them out of order. Adventure Time, you can watch them out of order, but everything kind of builds together, and you have this ongoing storyline that's getting bigger and more complicated as you go on. So you're learning more and more about the characters as the show continues. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before, but my favorite character from Adventure Time has got to be the Lumpy Space Princess. LSP is... you can't even describe her. She is a purple, lumpy space princess. That's what she is. But she speaks kind of like a valley girl, and she has created her own language, and the lumpy people have their own slang words, and saying lumps is kind of like their curse word. And so if she's upset about something, she could say something like, "This lumps," or "Stay out of my lumping business," or something along those lines. Anyway, and so I just find that oddly amusing, and her voice isn't really a feminine voice either. It's very manly, and so that even adds to her character even more. Alrighty, well, that seems like enough for today, so thank you for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.